Hello, welcome to badatpad. We're going to try me, Tri-Speed, and game content. Today we're going to talk about what I forgot to talk about this morning, which is the updated version 15 from now on Puzzle Dragon's evolution system. So, Puzzle Dragons has done two important things to the evolution system. Number one, let me explain them in words and then let me show you. Number one, they have made it so that dungeon bosses that can be used as Evo materials can become stackable in a way. And number two, they have generified the evolution requirements for a lot of evolutions that do require dungeon bosses. Not all of them, but a lot of them. So let me show you an example. So here is a Haku that I have that could be awoken evolved. And then if you look at her evolution requirements, it used to be a Zou in the blue slot here, and then it also used to be a dark Xuanzang monk. Those used to be your evolution requirements. Now they've been replaced by these two egg things. The egg thing, if I click on the dark one, says large dark gem. And if I click on how to get the large dark gem, it actually opens up a menu that lets me trade for it immediately from the one, which is pretty convenient. You can trade from it straight from the evolution menu. You don't have to go to the monster exchange. But you can see that I can trade these 5 things for a large dark gem. I could trade the Xuanzang that was the original material, but I could also trade in an evolved Hera, an evolved Satan, an evolved Dark Hera, and an evolved Zeus. So basically they've generified the evolution requirements for Haku among many other monsters. So I don't need the specific descent boss anymore. I can use any of these to evolve her. And so that's, yeah, so they made it generic, and then you can also stack these things because they are in the Evo material class, so you can stack them. So Gung Ho again is accomplishing 2 things: making dungeon bosses that are used for Evo materials stackable, and making a lot of the monster requirements more generic. So let me actually show some examples of more monsters that have now become easier to evolve, and then we're going to talk about some special cases and go to the monster exchange and show you how to do it from there. So some monsters that became easy that I found, that I noted, Canopus is now much easier. Canopus now takes small fire gem, small fire gem, small water gem, small light gem, and small dark gem instead of the mech dragons that you used to take. So you can use whatever you want to evolve him. Whatever you could trade, that's how to explain. Let's hop into one. You could use any of these guys, like the samurai. This used to be the actual fire mech dragon, used to be the actual fire replacement, but you could trade in, I don't know, like, I don't know what this is. The samurai fire dragon. Same thing for another good example, I think, is Zaerog. Not Z8, but the other Zaerog, the little mini one. Dragon Lord Zaerog. So for the pirate one and the samurai version, you can now also use these little small gems instead. So again, genericifying a lot of the easier dungeon materials. Now, there is a caveat, and let me actually go show you. A lot of the more difficult to acquire descend bosses or highly evolved descend bosses that whose easy forms, maybe whose like younger forms, not unevolved forms, might be easier to acquire, but then when you evolve them a lot, they become special. So let me actually show you an example of one of these. So let's say I wanted to evolve, what's a good example of someone? I think I found one before. So I want to awaken evolved Aamir no Uzume. So if we look at her, I keep holding the one on, actually for both of them, for her, we actually have a special egg. It's not just a red egg. Her evolution requirements used to be a Goemon and a Shuten Doji. Now it is a egg form of Goemon's highest evolved form, and an egg form of Shuten Doji's highest evolved form. Now these ones they're called rare eggs or rare Evo materials. I don't know what they're called. They're called like rare gems. We'll call them rare gems, rare eggs, that kind of thing. So in order to obtain these, you do have to trade these specific ones. So you do have to trade actual Shutendoji. There's only one choice. It has to be the evolved Shutendoji. As you can see, Shutendoji's other forms will not work. He has a base form, and that will not be able to trade for. You have to evolve the Shutendoji, and then you can trade it for this egg, this gem form. So that's the one thing. But you can't stack these ones. Like, you can stack a bunch of Goemon gems. You can stack a bunch of Shutendoji gems. So they are still stackable, but they won't kind of just be lumped in with the other fire, large, medium, or small gems. And again, I was trying to like look through all of these things, and I'll show them to you in a second, but I was trying to look through all of the things that were rare at Evo materials, and it was hard for me to find like a good pattern. Like, DQ Hera like isn't, but like, I don't know, you'll see. Like, it's vaguely based on like their evolution requirement and also their MP cost. I think all the MP 100 cost stuff, for the most part, like generally all the stuff that's 100 MP or more to sell has its own Evo material thing, and also a rare Evo material, a specific one, and also stuff that is at its third form evolved or higher has is a rare Evo material. So let me show what I mean. So let's see, monster exchange. So if we go to just the Evo tab on the far left, you can see what we can trade for small gems of fire, water, wood, light, and then medium ones, and then large ones. So if you go to the rare Evo tab, here's everything that has its own special Evo thing. You only need one of each of these things to trade. It's not like you can trade like 4 into 1. So the highest form of Zeus, the highest form of Hera, Goemon, Li-Fi, Volta, and let's skip down to some other colored things. We have Kuchulane's highest form, Buto, Super Gunma. So as you can see, generally high forms of things like Athena's, this is Athena's 3rd evolution, this is Izanami's 3rd evolution, this is Fagin's 3rd evolution. There are some weird ones in here that like don't really fit a mold. Like, I think Mion is in here, and that to me doesn't make that much sense. Like, Mion only has like 2 forms, but she has a rare Evo material. So like, I don't know, she's hard to, I think she's on the harder side to obtain. So like, I don't know, vaguely hard to obtain. It probably is based on like existing monsters requirements and stuff like that. But generally, stuff that has rare Evos are hard to obtain, have a higher MP cost, or are at a 3rd or stage or higher evolution. So that being said, let me talk about what you should be turning into gems and what you should not be, because there are some materials that overlap between having special gems, I'll call them special, specific gems, and generic gems. Generic gems, specific gems. There's some materials that have both. For instance, Hera, let's see if we can find her. In the medium fire gem, we actually have here Awoken Hera. As you can see, she has 3 forms. This is her 2nd form, is a medium fire gem. She's not in the large fire gem pool, by the way. I wish I could be better at clicking. She's not in the large fire gem pool, but in the rare Evo pool, she has Awoken Dancing Queen Hera. So, and there's a number of monsters that are like this. So for the monsters that do not have rare Evo materials, you probably should convert them all to the generic one, because they have no rare Evo materials, and vice versa. If a monster only has a rare Evo material, an example of that, let me show you 2 examples. An example of a monster that only has a generic evolution material is Hephaestus. Hephaestus only has, I wish I could prove it to you, but I don't want to keep scrolling through everything, but oh god, sorry. Hephaestus only has, first of all, 2, oh my god, why can't I click on this? 2 forms, but he only has a generic Evo material. He can only be made large fire gem and nothing else. And there's a bunch of other examples, like Theurgia, I believe, is like that. Basil is like that. Zoyu, Sha Wuqing are like that. So there's a bunch of Descend monsters that fit in the category of I can only become a generic gem. There's a bunch of monsters that only fit into the category of I can only become rare, or a specific one. So for instance, I believe Li-5 can only ever become his special gem. He can't become a large fire, medium fire, small fire, and his unevolved form also cannot become large. any of the generic ones. It's just his evolve form that can become a gem, and the only gem it can become is specific. Similarly, like Hephaestus Dragon, I think is one, Gainot. All the special descends and radar dragons are like that. They cannot become the generic ones at all. They can only become rare ones. So for things that can only become rare gems, specific gems, you should always make them into their specific form, because they have no other option, unless you want to use them for something. Like if you want to use a Gainot on your team, then don't make it into that form. So obviously, like if they only have one choice as an Evo material, you should make them into that one. But there are a few that are in between, and let me actually list them out for you. I actually found these by going through this very useful padprotic site on it and scrolling down through these bits here, where Puzzle Chef has kindly, I think this is by Puzzle Chef, right? I'm pretty sure this is by Puzzle Chef. Oh god, who is the author of padprotic? I need to know. Blogging Mama. Excuse me, I'll say Blogging Mama. Puzzle Chef is the Chop Chef. So for instance, if you scroll down through this post, which I will link below, you can see cards with unique stones include Canopus, Starling, Hadar, Crystal Skull, and Mutecocoon. So Canopus's lower form, and I will show you this in here, Canopus's unevolved form can be traded for a small wood gem. It's right there in the first slot. But Canopus's evolved form can also be traded for where is it? Where are you, Canopus? Here, this one. Canopus's evolved form can be traded for a special gem. And there's a number of monsters like this. So what you should do with these monsters is you should put them probably, most likely all the time, to the rare form. Because you'll probably need the rare form for some specific annoying thing later, and you can get the generic form from many other things. So let me show you what the monsters are. I actually have compiled them here. I'll show you that screen we just saw in a little bit. So at the very top of the screen here, I actually just wrote some guidelines for what might have rare only. And there's actually a lot of things that don't fit into these categories. I don't know why there's so many random descend bosses that there's like a lot of random miscellaneous descends. It's supposed to say collab, not caller. That only have rare evos and don't have generic ones. But the number dragons 4 and up, number dragon, the Wangrun, Basil, and 3dia are all only generic. They do not have rare ones. But everything from defowed up only has a specific evolution. All the rare dragons only specific, as I said. All the special descends, so like Gainot, Nordis, Lynthia, Scarlet, all of them only have rare evos. The color dragon callers, so Diara, Grotto, the other ones I can't remember, and then a bunch of miscellaneous things I can't remember. I have no idea how they pick them. So a lot of those are, but these are the general categories that have rare only. So for in-betweens, aka things that you should make rare, but like you might see it in your generic one, but don't make them generic, make them rare evolution, are any Hera and any Zeus. So any Hera, Ares, and any Zeus, don't use them for generic stuff. Now in the fire category, Goemon is the only one. Goemon's, I believe, one of his unevolved forms. I think his second form is one of the generic gems, as we just saw, and his highest form, his third form, is specific. So Goemon, for water we have Starling and Noah. For wood we have Canopus and Gaia. For light we have Crystal Skull, Valkyrie, Light Valkyrie, and Crystal Skull is the mystic dragon Crystal Skull, Valkyrie, Izanami. And for dark, there's actually a lot of them. So Hadar, which makes sense. Mutecocoon, Dark Izanami, Beelzebub, Corpse Dragon, and Zaerog and Aamir. I don't know why Aamir's in both. There's some weird ones. But for these things, how do I... Here, go away. For these things, I'll just leave this here if you want to like screenshot it or something. But I wish I had pictures, but I'm not that fancy. For these things, do not make them generic, even if you can, unless you're really strapped for generic and you already have a bunch of their specific ones. But with these ones, take a pause and probably should try to make them rare if you can, because generic ones you can get from a lot of other things. There actually are some posts online. I'll put them, I'll see if I can find any, and if I can, I'll put them in the description, but you can just Google it too on what's the best place to farm, like all the generic eggs. So I actually got really nerdy about this and did something really stupid. It was really dumb. I made a coding if else statements on what you should make into eggs. And this may not make sense to people who don't code, but I was just being nerdy and lame this afternoon, so I made some enums for your choices. Whether you should keep the monster, you should convert to the generic form, or convert to the rare form. So the public class, this is in Java-ish, because that's what I coded at work. So the method make choice accepts a monster as the input, and it goes through a bunch of if statements. If you want to use the monster, like maybe you might, some examples of monsters you might want to keep: Zeus, Dios, Surtur, even Goemon to an extent, but not really. You might want to keep Linthia if you're running Ronavate and if you have nothing else. If you want to keep it, like if you want to use the monster, don't make it into an Evo thing. By the way, one thing to mention, if you make a monster into the egg form, you can't make it back. So maybe think twice about some of these ones that are more useful, like Zeus Dios, or Tengu or something. Yeah, so once you make it to the Evo material, like the egg, you can't make it back. So if you want to keep it, if you want to use a monster, don't make it an egg. If it has a rare Evo of some kind, of any of its evolution forms has a rare evolution. So if you see a low form Hera, her higher form has an evolution. If it to a rare egg, an evolution that can become a rare egg, then make it the rare egg. Otherwise, in all other cases, just make it generic form. Makes sense? This flowchart, I think, should be pretty good for you. If you want to use the monster at some point, just keep it. If any evolution of the monster has a rare form, make it the rare form. Otherwise, then it's just some generic, it can only become generic form, and just make it the generic form. So hopefully that gives you some insight into how this Evomat system works. You can always poke around in the menus and look at different monsters and their requirements and stuff now. I'll link again the padprotic site below on all the different monsters. Some weird ones I did want to highlight. Like, there's a lot of ones that have rare evos that are like super random, like that don't have generic ones, like Mion, as I mentioned. Even what? Really? Oh, I guess it doesn't count. Vampire Lord? Does Vampire Lord not become one of these dark ones? That is so weird. Are you serious? Not even for a small? So apparently Vampire Lord can only be made rare. I don't know why, but that's just the way it is. Really? How interesting. Anyway, there's a bunch of weird ones you can look through as you want to. Yes. Anything else? Oh, here's the link for it. There's a link in here for Stone farming. Let's actually see where it leads. Oh, it leads to Reddit. So we're not going to continue. Oh, cool. Not going to keep going. Anyways, now we're stuck on Reddit. And I'll go back to... I guess I'll go back to my bed. Where is it? Okay. Anyways, that is my post on evolution materials. My coverage of it as best as I can describe. Sorry, I got a little sidetracked. There's a lot of like little informations in this one to remember, but let me know if you have any questions. And I'm actually going to do some dungeon runs right now of the new arena thing. So actually, hopefully just one dungeon run of the new arena. So I will see you in the next video. Okay, goodbye.